Good morning, everyone. This is the last Reformation topic, and there was I wouldn't say it was a Reformation, but there was a movement within the Lutheran movement after Luther, and it all surrounded the idea of adiaphora, or indifferent matters, things that didn't really matter to our salvation. And it was really the main culprit of division between early Lutherans after Luther's death. Philip Melanchthon, who really should be more credited with our current form of Lutheranism, we are more Melanchthonites than we are Lutherans. But anyway, Melanchthon thought that we could implement Catholic practices again if they didn't directly contradict the changes that the Lutheran movement brought. So Melanchthon was addressing the question of what really makes us Lutheran. For Melanchthon, it was the core theological beliefs that he wrote in the Augsburg Confession. But for others, Lutheranism was more than just a change in theology or doctrine. It also required a change in practice as well. Some Lutherans, like Philip Melanchthon, didn't see anything wrong with quote-unquote looking Catholic, and those who followed that view were called Phillipists. But others who wanted to be seen as non-Catholics and as close to Luther's original understanding as possible, or true Lutherans as they called themselves, they were also called Gnesio Lutherans. This is where the Formula of Concord comes in, to help settle these debates within the Lutheran community. And these writings are within the Book of Concord at the end, and are meant to settle the debates surrounding this whole idea of adiaphora. But unfortunately for Melanchthon, who pretty much spent his entire life trying to define what Lutheranism was, this Formula of Concord that was written for Lutherans, by Lutherans, favored the Gnesio Lutherans. And what was considered adiaphora was slowly becoming less and less. So the Lutheran ability to express in different ways or bring in Catholic practices again was starting to slowly decrease. They also were trying to combat this other sect of Lutherans. So the Gnesio Lutherans and the Phillipists at least agreed that they needed to combat the sacramentarians. So the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? And that's kind of this case here. And the sacramentarians, they kind of were really trying to destroy the whole understanding of consubstantiation. They didn't believe in the true body and blood to be present in the sacraments. They believed it was more of a spiritual presence, if you will, as if the Holy Spirit was present, but Jesus' body and blood weren't actually the elements. And that goes against what Luther thought, that goes against what Melanchthon thought, and what these Gnesio Lutherans believed as well. These sacramentarians were much more in line with Calvinists than they were with Lutherans. But the Formula of Concord tried to reject this idea, and they restated the belief of consubstantiation. So they were able to agree upon that. But overall, the Formula of Concord was to squash these debates and kind of define the core beliefs again of what the Lutherans at that time believed. But since it's kind of not really an authoritative text on what Lutherans believe today, we still use the Augsburg Confessions as our belief foundations. Because the Formula of Concord pretty much just reiterates some new things, but it also just muddies the water on a lot of other things and has a lot of contradictions. So the Formula of Concord is worth a read to see what the Lutherans were trying to fix during their time or change during that time. But our core foundational beliefs are still the Augsburg Confession, written by Melanchthon. So I think it is an interesting experiment to kind of see where we land today. Do you, as a personal thing, feel that we can be Lutheran even if we look Catholic or even maybe evangelical. But as long as we hold true to our core Lutheran beliefs. Or do you think that we need to do exactly what Luther wanted in order to be Lutheran? Do we need to be closer to the source? Otherwise, we're not Lutheran. Are you a Philippist who encourages freedom of expression through outward ways of living and worship, as long as we stay true to our core beliefs of the sacraments and justification and salvation and all that? Or are you a Gnesio Lutheran who feels we need to follow Lutheran tradition more strictly and live our lives a more Lutheran way and worship a more Lutheran way? And what does that mean to worship in a Lutheran way? So the idea of adiaphora isn't as strong in the Gnesio Lutheran, whereas in Phillipists, adiaphora is, you can do pretty much anything you want, as long as you have these core beliefs, these few core beliefs. Because honestly, if we look around today, even within our own synod, we can see that there are Philippists and Gnesio Lutherans around us. There are people who try to hold true to that Lutheran tradition, and there are also people who try new things. You could walk in and it doesn't even look Lutheran at all, and yet it's very Lutheran because of those core beliefs. So where do you stand? Neither is wrong or right. It's just how do we express ourselves as Lutherans, as Christians? And I hope you learned a little bit about that small controversy in Lutheran history. But next week we'll be going over the Book of Concord, specifically around Melanchthon's work of the Augsburg Confession, to go over our foundations as Lutherans. Have a good weekend, everyone. God bless.